Hello everyone, ShadowRock here with everything we know so far about Mega Man 11. Brought to you via over 25 facts about the game, and truthfully some conjecture, since obviously this game is still a year out from when I'm recording this. Without further ado then, let's rock! Number 1. In Japan, Rockman 11's subtitle translates to Gears of Fate. More on this later. Number 2. A physical release for Mega Man 11 has been confirmed. Capcom cannot comment on how much the game will cost, though it will be less than the typical $60. Number 3. Mega Man 11 is slated for a late 2018 release, which means we're in for quite a wait. This is a good thing, however. Typically in the past, Capcom would only spend 1 year or even less on new Mega Man entries. Looking at you, Mega Man 7 and Bout Network 2. Yes, and I hate to make this comparison, but at one point in time, Mega Man was getting new releases on the pace of franchises like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. And by now, longtime gamers are aware of what happens to a game's quality when it is rushed out for an annual release schedule. Alright, virus deleted. Now we can move on to this scenario. Just like normal, right? Capcom! So, it is nice to see Capcom take their time on a Mega Man game for once, 7 to 8 year hiatus notwithstanding. We know that Mega Man 11 must have been in development for at least a year by this point, with all the hints that Capcom has been dropping, and their claim that all 8 Robot Master stages are finished at this stage of development further supports this idea. Number 4. Can we talk about for a moment how great it is to finally have a Mega Man game in HD? That looks good? Mega Man 11 features 2.5D graphics, but it was hard for me to notice when I first laid eyes on the trailer because the art style is done in an anime-like graphical style that gives the illusion of 2D, even though we're dealing with 3D models. Now, graphics can be very subjective from person to person, but I personally think this style fits Mega Man quite nicely, and with an additional year of polish left until release, this could end up being one of the best looking Mega Man games yet. I hate to be that guy, but this graphical style is what some people thought they were getting with Mighty No. 9, back when all we had was these pieces of concept art. So yeah, I'm glad that at least Mega Man is doing it. Let me show you a few neat examples of eye candy that bringing Mega Man to the modern era has afforded us. Now when Mega Man defeats enemies, gears and screws come flying out to them. A similar thing when you see the Pickle Man that was driving the excavator mid-boss being blasted away when it's defeated. Quite amusing indeed. Mega Man's charging animation looks upgraded, reminding one of X's charge animation from Mega Man X4. I should mention too that Mega Man's new animation when he begins a level takes a cue from his Maverick Hunter counterpart as well. Lastly, there's a lighting effect going on here as you can see Mega Man's shadow moving along behind him. Neat! Also, did you know that the screenshots featured in Game Informer are from an earlier build of the game compared to the reveal trailer? Take a look at the before and after of this shot of the construction stage mid-boss. Wow, that's quite an improvement! There are still some rough patches though, such as Mega Man's stiff running animation that I would like to see them smooth out over the course of next year. But as director Koji Oda would say, a pretty looking game means nothing if it doesn't play well. Which brings us to number 5, the feel of the controls. And the only English speaking publication we know that has had hands-on time with Mega Man 11 is Game Informer. So what do they have to say about how the game plays? Despite the new look, Mega Man 11's controls feel as precise and tight as one of his 8-bit adventures. Mega Man can still charge up his shots and slide to quickly dodge enemy attacks or move from one end of the screen to the next. That's great to hear, and it also makes for a great segue to number 6. The charge shot and slide are back, baby! The charge shot is as you expect. Charge it up and let it rip for a larger, more powerful blast that can take out multiple targets at once. The slide allows Mega Man to slide through small gaps and can be used as a maneuverability option to dodge attacks or simply move quicker. The slide is still mapped to the down and jump buttons like in previous titles, though Capcom is considering mapping the slide to a single button instead. But okay SR, I hear you saying, they are important parts of Mega Man's arsenal, but they are nothing new either, so why should I be excited that they're back? Well, you see, the previous entries, Mega Man 9 and 10, paid homage to the 8-bit classics. Almost too much in fact, as in their attempt to emulate Mega Man 2, they took away two of the abilities that made the Blue Bomber pretty cool, the Charge Shot and the Slide. In those games, those abilities would be exclusive to Proto Man, which admittedly did make for a more pronounced gameplay difference between each character. But as for Mega Man himself, it still felt as though we were taking a step back rather than forward. I wonder how theorists will explain this discrepancy in continuity as well. Because to my knowledge, 9 and 10's lore never explains how Mega Man got downgraded in the first place. Thankfully, Mega Man 11 is different, seemingly taking inspiration from everything from across the series and putting it all into one game, rather than copy and pasting Mega Man 2. But that's not all Mega Man 11 is doing, because number 7, there's a new gameplay mechanic too, and it has to do with those gears underneath Mega Man's life bar. We don't know the full details on this mechanic that Game Informer says will impact Mega Man's moment-to-moment gameplay yet, as not even they were allowed to disclose it, only mentioning that it's a nice addition to the action and helps balance the difficulty. However, by taking a closer look at the trailer footage and screenshots, we can piece a few things together. To give a basic idea of this gear mechanic, it sounds similar to that of Samus's Aeon abilities from Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS. Hey, that's another franchise that made a comeback this year. Anyway, in Samus Returns, the Aeon abilities gave Samus temporary upgrades such as increased firepower, defense, and the ability to slow down time. That last one sounds more like a Robot Master ability in Mega Man speak, but Mega Man does have his own twist on that idea in this game. It appears that Mega Man can collect these gear power-up items that are scattered around each level, which in turn allows him to activate certain abilities. The first, perhaps indicated by the small red gear, allows Mega Man to fire fully charged shots at the speed of his regular lemon shots, as you can barely see at the end of the trailer, and in this Famitsu screenshot showing the ability in action. We also see that there is a time limit shown above Mega Man's head. The second ability we have a good idea of is seen in these screenshots of Mega Man with several after images following him, just like in the Mega Man X games when you dash. This would indicate that this ability gives Mega Man a temporary speed boost by using the smaller blue gear. We also got a hint at a possible third ability in this screenshot with Mega Man sporting the Mega Man Star Force attire, Omegasys and all. If I had to guess, he's doing a screen-wide attack like X's Giga Crush from Mega Man X2. As we can see in the before and after screenshots, Mega Man is blowing a bunch of enemies and obstacles away. Director Koji Oda had this to say on the new gear mechanic. It's still a work in progress. We definitely have the state of mind that you're always up against death, but this time you have more tools at your disposal, so you can face death and still have fun. By the way, number 8. There are costumes in this game. I've already mentioned the Mega Man Star Force getup seen in this screenshot, which means I wouldn't be surprised if there are more where that came from. This is purely conjecture on my part, but how we obtain them could go 3 ways. The obvious one is DLC, but then that would mean on this DLC, which is pretty gross, but it isn't beyond Capcom at the same time. My second theory, which is less likely, the costumes could be equipped when you activate specific gear power-ups, as if Mega Man was calling forth the power of his Mega Brethren from across the franchise. As our own viewer, Gavin Dragon, points out, the subtitle is The Gears of Fate. The only other times gears show up in Mega Man games have been in the factory stages and when time travel is involved in a few other spots. In Super Smash Bros., his symbol was a gear possibly hinting at Mega Man 11. The time travel thing could be why Mega Man has this Mega Man Star Force getup, but that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Oh wait, we're not done yet, because my third theory for how we get to this costume ties into number 9. There's a good chance that Auto Shop is back. If you need proof, look no further than the bolts laying around everywhere and are being dropped by enemies too, which means they're not going to work like they did in Mega Man 8. But what can you purchase from Auto Shop in Mega Man 11? The usual items like E-Tanks, extra lives, energy bouncers are a safe guess. Though, let's take a step further. What if there were many different gear powers that you could purchase through Auto Shop and equip the ones that you like? That could make for some worthwhile investments, and be able to customize the gameplay how you like. Auto Shop could also be where you could get your Star Force costume and other outfits that Capcom comes up with. I'd be down for some cosmetic bonuses, if I don't have to pay real money for them, of course. Capcom please? But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the items we know we can expect to find in the levels and in the shop in more detail. Number 10, the confirmed items. We have the Extra Life, which is a 3D rotating Mega Man head this time, small and large weapon recharges, small and large health recharges. The small one we know heals 2 units of health, but we haven't seen how much the large one heals yet. The E-Tank, which should top off Mega Man's health, though it's unknown if we will be able to carry only 4 or 9 of those. And finally, the bolts, which are naturally the currency for the shop. Number 11, let's talk Robot Masters. The big bad bosses you'll fight at the end of each of the 8 main stages, which you can choose in any order in typical Mega Man fashion. The only one we have gotten a good look at thus far is this fella. According to Game Informer, his Japanese name was Ringa Man, which translates to Brick Man, so that's what we will be calling him for some time. However, do note that this will probably not be his final name, as Capcom states that his name has since been changed. They are not ready to tell us what that new name is though. It is said that Brickman was the most energetic and was one of Dr. Light's most beloved creations. Sorry Proto Man, tough luck bro. More on the connection to Dr. Light in a later section. As for the other 7 Robot Masters, you can get a glimpse at their shadows in this beta screenshot of the title screen. The robots were designed to include a mix of comical, mysterious, and serious designs. Director Koji Oda says, "When I looked at the enemies from Mega Man 7 and onward, I felt like they had more color variety, but the individual personalities of each enemy was lessened because of that. I cut back on the number of colors for the enemies so you can really see the distinction between each enemy. I don't want players to be sad when they defeat enemies. I kind of envision it as they're all having fun on the playground." Number 12. By the way, if you were hoping for a new female Robot Master, I'm sorry to report that all of the Robot Masters in Mega Man 11 will be men. This is what director Koji Oda had to say. There was actually a female Robot Master at the concept stage for Mega Man 11, but when we paired up all the different weapons, she was one of the Robot Masters that didn't make the cut. We definitely feel like there are plenty of opportunities to add a female Robot Master in the future. This is one of those things where we feel like it's all about what fits for each occasion, and there are definitely occasions where a female will be more appropriate than a male. Number 13. In this game, Mega Man's whole physical appearance changes for each Robot Master weapon. The only example we have right now is Mega Man's art we've been looking at for a while now, featuring his Brickman power. Did you know that this design choice was originally conceptualized for the very first Mega Man game? It's pretty neat to see such an old idea be brought back 30 years later. However, arts director Yuji Ishihara is careful to only change Mega Man's helmet and arm for these physical changes, so that he can keep enough of his visual identity. Some have speculated that the aforementioned Star Force costume is a Robot Master weapon too, but I honestly doubt we'll actually be fighting Geostellar unless they really go all in on the crossover idea to celebrate the 30th anniversary. Number 14. Have you noticed that Mega Man has his own special weapon bar in his normal form this time? Well, it's for Rush, since you can see in the trailer that some of the energy is used up upon using Rush Coil. Note that Mega Man never changes to his usual Rush Red color either. This change could indicate that there is a dedicated Rush button, meaning Rush will never have to be selected specifically. Although I believe it would be simple enough to have Rush on the special weapon button while in normal form, since Mega Man only uses his Mega Buster normally. Of course, that would still leave the question of how you would switch between Rush Coil and Rush Jet, which is also confirmed to be in the game. Either Rush Jet would be selectable through the menu or with another button, perhaps the L and R triggers, or Rush Jet has his own dedicated button as well. Number 15. Now in this game, Mega Man can select the Robot Master weapons with a simple flick of the right analog stick, Since there are 8 Robot Masters, that means that each of the 8 directions on the stick will correspond to a different power, making for easy access for on-the-fly switching, and perhaps this way you can chain together some Robot Master combo attacks as well. Number 16. While we're on the subject, let's go over the confirmed weapons and utilities in Mega Man 11 so far. For utilities, we know about Rush Coil and Rush Jet, which are self-explanatory for longtime fans. Coil allows you to reach high places, while Jet will get you across large gaps. We know that there will be 8 Robot Master weapons, and here are 2 of them that we know about. With Brickman's weapon, Mega Man throws down 4 blocks in a horizontal line. According to Game Informer, this weapon may be charged up for bigger blocks that cause more damage. The last known Robot Master weapon that is obtained from the construction level, we don't have a picture of, only a description from Game Informer. This weapon transforms Mega Man's hand into a jackhammer spike, which allows you to attack in the form of a powerful mid-air dash. This would tie into the developers' goal to make each Robot Master have multiple uses this time around. The developers are also putting more thought into how the Robot Master weaknesses link up this time around, with producer Kazuhiro Sukiya admitting to Game Informer that as the Mega Man series progressed, the weaknesses started to make less and less sense. Number 17. Also, according to Game Informer, when you clear a stage, you are taken to a blueprint-like screen where you can test out your newly acquired weapon. It's an evolution on the idea of previous games that would briefly demonstrate the weapon, but this time it's a playable tutorial so players can get a feel of their new arsenal before they resume play. Alright, but what kind of stages can we expect to try out these new weapons on though? That brings us to number 18, the confirmed levels so far. Capcom says that the 8 Robot Master stages are done, and Game Informer got to play 2 of them, whereas Famitsu got to play 3. So let's break them down. The first that we have the most information about is the Ancient Egyptian level, filled with temples with eyes on them. Oh no! Tower Man is canon now! This stage features an outdoor area filled with gaps and falling blocks that you will have to watch out for, indoor section with more falling blocks, breakable ones, and conveyor belts. According to Game Informer, the sun will begin to set as you progress through the stage, which would indicate that the levels will slowly evolve visually as you go forward. In this screenshot from Famitsu, we see that at one point in the level, Mega Man will have to run away from a wall of grinders. Here's another Famitsu screenshot showing the boss shutter room, which features no enemies as to be expected. Fun fact, the Ancient Egyptian level is the first one that Capcom designed for Mega Man 11, and they expect this one to be the easiest of the bunch. Director Koji Oda had this to say on creating this stage. We actually modeled this area off destruction. That means things being destroyed in front of you and being able to destroy things yourself. I can't tell if this is a Japanese thing, but when we envision large blocks, we envision them being stacked on top of each other or being destroyed. We have also seen the mid-boss encounter for the Ancient Egyptian stage, being this tall guy that acts like a Blocky from Mega Man 2 and Big Pets from Mega Man 5. Seems like they're taking some inspiration from across the series for this game. I also like the little details on display here, with the boss's eyes showing pain when taking damage from Mega Man shots, which has a neat looking effect too on impact. Sparks literally fly. But that's not all. On this screen there is a mural in the background, which if we look closely and brighten it up a bit, we can get a closer look at the sort of enemies we can expect and see in this stage, and in the game overall. I'll get more in depth with the enemies in a later section though. Number 19. Let's move on to the second stage then, which features a construction and mining theme. Of course, you wouldn't have a mine stage without electrical obstacles, picklemen, death spikes, moving platforms, and cones that fire missiles at you, and apparently a blue bomber cosplaying as his shooting star counterpart, completely wreaking havoc on everything. Yes, this is the stage where that screenshot is from. Oh, and I have this screenshot from the outside of the stage that features a Met. It looks more like the Battle Network incarnation of a Metar for some reason. Wait a minute! Anyway, according to the developers, this construction level was inspired by actual construction that occurred in real life in their Capcom offices during the conception of Mega Man 11. As for the mid-boss found in the stage, it's the giant excavator, driven by a Pickle Man and also featuring the cone-like enemy that fires missiles at you as he dodged the excavator's attacks. Number 20. The third and last stage we know about now is the forest level, that looks to be themed after a summer camp at night. Complete with a full moon, a totem pole with an owl on top, a welcome sign with a Metar on it, and a tent. I've seen some people on the internet theorize that this tent could be a place where you can enter perhaps some kind of shop, but personally I believe this is a new type of enemy thanks to the Dr. Wily skull motif on the front and the fact it shows up multiple times throughout the level. Remember in Mega Man 7 when Proto Man said they used a fire weapon in the forest? Well, this is probably not what he meant. At one point in this stage, there will be a section where Mega Man must escape from a literal wall of fire. For God's sakes people, Smokey Bear said to prevent forest fires, not make actual walls of them. But man, a wall of grinders and a wall of fire, huh? They sure love this style of auto-scrolling sections apparently. I hope this idea isn't spammed too much in the final game, but we'll see. There is still several levels we haven't seen yet after all. That's all the stages we know about now, so let's move on to number 21, the confirmed enemies. Capcom has said to Game Informer that Mega Man 11 will feature 70% new enemies, whereas the other 30% will be returning enemies from previous titles. We've scoured through the trailer footage and released screenshots and concept art to get a taste of what enemies we can expect in this game. So let's take a look. Returning enemies include the Lyric from Mega Man 5, the Pickle Man from Mega Man 1, a new form of the shield attacker that first appeared in Mega Man 4. You can see in its concept art how it splits down the middle when it changes directions. Neat! And you can't have a Mega Man game without the Sniper Joe, which is seen in this concept art. New enemies in Mega Man 11 include this cone enemy that fires homing missiles at Mega Man. This is like a back cone from Mega Man 7, but their behaviors are completely different, so I'm gonna count this one as new. These rolling guys, which I will temporarily dub the Wheel Joes, since they look like slightly fatter Joes inside a wheel. These can only be damaged by attacking the gap in their wheel. The new Skull Hammer enemy, which brings down its hammer when Mega Man gets close. After doing so, a platform will pop out of its back that can be used to reach higher areas. A red circular enemy with big eyes that fire bullets in all 8 directions. Its design and behavior looks like a fusion of the Octopus Battery and Flying Shell, which are both from Mega Man 1. I also spotted what looks like a hole where this enemy could pop out from, which may be the case as it would be unrealistic to think that Mega Man could bypass this one unharmed without destroying it or the blocks underneath. In the summer camp stage, there is another circular enemy with eyes, except this one is colored black and has a ring of fire surrounding it. Then we have this skull tent that we touched on earlier. I've been thinking again about what this tent could do, and I have a theory. What if this tent acted as a dispenser for these little guys with the fire rings? It would explain why we see them so close together in this scene. There is no conclusive proof that this is the case though. We wrap up our confirmed enemy count with the aforementioned excavator and the blocky-ass mid-bosses. These next 2 enemies aren't really confirmed to be in the game, but they have appeared in some concept artwork, so they are worth mentioning. First we have the Tate Pakan from Mega Man 5, and to be fair, this one may not be in the final game simply because this concept art was created as a test for the new art style by redesigning their favorite Mega Man 5 and Mega Man 10 levels to make sure that the new art style will fit Mega Man's classic gameplay. But we do have this new piece of concept artwork from what looks like a Dr. Wily stage. And within it, we see these guys that we have never seen before. It looks like a tank with a Metar hat and a drill on its nose. Kind of a weird design, so look out for that one if it does appear in the new game. But what of the mad scientist behind everything? Number 22. Yes, guess who's back? Back again. Dr. Wily is back if you couldn't tell from the promo art. Tell a friend. And he's looking pretty spiffy in that new red tie. So, what is Dr. Wily up to this time? Well, we have a good idea thanks to Game Informer. Number 23. In Mega Man 11, the 8 Robot Masters are Dr. Light's creations, and the story will draw comparisons to Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 9. in which Dr. Wily modified Dr. Light's robots to perform evil deeds. Here is director Koji Oda's statement on the story. "We went back to the original concept where the robot masters were created by Dr. Light, then kidnapped by Dr. Wily and modified for evil purposes. I think with every Mega Man game, it's all about Dr. Wily doing something devious. But we wanted to go back to the original plot where Mega Man is fighting against former allies. We thought that was just inherently more interesting and added a lot more depth." Number 24. Speaking of the story, we also know that the game will feature voice acting. On the English side of things, we have a bit more mature Mega Man voice that some have drawn comparisons to Mega Man.exe's voice from Mega Man Battle Network 5 Double Team DS. Personally, I hear more of his Mega Man powered up voice. Take a listen for yourself. On the Japanese side, we have the standard higher pitched Rockman voice. So far, we've only heard small snippets in gameplay, but the inclusion of voice acting could hint at a bigger focus on story this time around, such as fully voice acted cutscenes. Let's just hope that Capcom puts in the effort to lip sync them. Looking at you, Mighty Number 9. Number 25. There will be 4 difficulty levels in Mega Man 11. According to this beta Rockman 11 title screen, they are labeled as Newcomer Mode, Advanced Mode, Original Spec Mode, and Expert Mode. That being said, these titles could be very different in the final game. Game Informer mentions that in the demo that they played, the modes were labeled Newcomer, Casual, Normal, and Superhero Mode. Regardless of the naming, we do know that like in Mega Man 10, the easier difficulties will offer players extra platforms during challenging platforming sequences, less space between checkpoints, and other support systems. Otherwise, each difficulty mode will alter Mega Man's health and damage output. So it looks like Mega Man 11 will offer enough modes to appease newcomers, casual, and pro players. But will the game actually be that hard? Director Koji Oda thinks so. Number 27. The Japanese have a saying, climb over your own corpse and get better. A person should be able to learn from their failures and use that knowledge to overcome their next challenge. That is Koji Oda's way of saying Mega Man 11 will present a worthy challenge. In their demo time, Game Informer played Mega Man 11 on normal mode and say that the game still retains the challenge that Mega Man games from the NES era are known for. At the same time, the action also feels fair. They died several times during a few sections but overcame tricky platforming sections with a little practice. Of course, there's the whole meme about game journalists and YouTubers being bad at video games, so I guess us veterans will just have to wait to play the game ourselves before we can really judge. Alright, we're almost done here, but I want to take number 26 to just point out that there is a new role design. Yes, she's going to be back in the game. And there are other redesigns such as for Mega Man, Rush, and Dr. Wily as we said before. And wait we shall, because we have just covered everything we know about Mega Man's upcoming adventure as of this point. I really want to thank each and every one of you who has watched through this video and my previous one covering the road leading up to Mega Man 11 and the development. By the way, if you haven't seen that one, I'll be leaving a link to that in the description below. Check it out, it's an interesting watch. I've lost count of how many pages upon pages I've written about this game in the past week alone, and honestly, it's been quite some work and time putting together all this information for you guys. But you know what? It's still incredibly thrilling to be covering and closely analyzing a brand new Mega Man game. He's back, guys! I still can't believe it! As always, stay tuned to ShadowRockZX so you don't miss any of our continuing Mega Man 11 coverage and other things Mega Man 2. And yes, now that this is done, the Mega Man Let's Plays will be back on schedule. Thank you once again, and until next time, rock on!